All right. Welcome, A Little Crazy Podcast. I am David Magee. The Phoebe Goodwin is here.
David, I'm here.
Look, you are here for one of my favorite conversations ever. We talk on this podcast a lot about managing hard and how you can get to better out of hard. This is just taking the pure proactive, just straight up positive take on one of my favorite subjects, ADHD. I mean, it's just coming in on the top line of skipping all the hard and going right to the most amazing. When I speak in schools a lot, I'm on that stage. I'm so excited because it's spring and there's a new season of speaking in schools, and I've got some great invitations coming. I've got well, it's not a school, but I got one of the bigger churches in Atlanta that's invited me. I've got a school system public school system on the coast. I've got a couple of big private schools in Tennessee where I'm doing both speaking and then helping them with some follow-up writing assignments and curriculum type things to delve into their inner selves. So anytime that season comes and I'm on the stage, I get on that stage and sometimes I'm telling my story. I usually have learned to take a moment when ADHD and self-medication comes up, because I've self-medicated before, as a lot of people have, and I've been medicated by a doctor, as we talked about in our previous episode that didn't go well. So I finally decided when I'm up on that stage and I'm talking to all of those students, I'm like, look, guys, I love ADHD. I love ADHD. It gives me everything good in my life. And you should see their faces. They're all laughing and roaring because probably 50% in that audience of those students are on a prescription and or have been diagnosed, and a lot of them might not even have it, but a lot of them do, because we're in the age of, where if you're in school and you're not doing well, anything but A's, people are taking you down for a diagnosis and shoving pills at you. But a lot of them do have it genuinely, just as I do. And I get into the story about how pills went bad for me, but mostly because they took all of my good away from me. So I stand on that stage, Phoebe, and I say, listen, guys, I love ADHD. And I mean, every time they're roaring, because nobody has freed them of that. They have grown up in this generation where they are told if they have any characteristics of ADHD, it's a negative.
Yeah. I think it's only been very recently that I've seen ADHD not as a negative, because it's something wrong.
Oh, you grew up in the whole ADHD generation where all parents and everybody, and it's okay, I'm not trying to point a finger at any of you. I've been there myself with my own journey. But your generation.
Everyone has it. It's one of those things where it's not a matter of if. It is. And it's one of those things that's interesting because me and my friends will be like, oh, my ADHD is kicking in. Or like, oh, I'm like really ADHD.
It's a running joke. But it's an adjective.
It's not like a condition. It's just like, yeah, I've got it. Everyone
that's
does.
So funny. That truly, if you went and polled 1,000 college students, they all will say it's just a matter of what degree.
Yeah, and I think I really, really noticed it when I was in class. I would look around and see everyone's legs bouncing.
Oh.
And their feet tapping.
Oh,
or like
yeah.
They're tapping their fingers, or like I'm tapping my toes right now. Like you're just always moving, and
wow.
I just remember seeing that and being like, they'd stop bouncing their leg or their knee, whatever, look at their phone, put their phone down, and then like start tapping. It's so interesting.
Because it became a part of your generation's culture that it's almost just an expectation that half or 3/4 of the class or the students are all jacked up on speed.
Right.
From the doctor.
Yeah. And, working at the church with high school and middle school students, it's so interesting to see their attention spans in conversations and how mine is the same.
Oh,
like,
Phoebe,
I'll be in the middle of a conversation and be like, wait, so did you hear about this? Or, oh my gosh, I love that top. And then I'll like continue what I was talking. It's like jumbled mess.
Many of your greatest qualities are, you're creative, you're a great conversationalist, you're all these things. But maybe you were never diagnosed with ADHD, but sometimes when I'm communicating with you or that, I'm laughing to myself because you're like, you'll say like, I'll be there. Recently, I'll be there at 4:30. And so I texted you back because I thought you meant 4. But so I come back, you mean 4:30?
Well, yeah,
and you said,
I just totally.
Yes. And so then it's 4 and you're just like, I'm running late. I said, but you told me 4:30.
Well, let's just say I was on time. Unlike today, I was on time.
Totally
that day.
on time. So were you ever tempted when you were in high school to go to your parents and say, could you just take me to the doctor and let me get an ADHD diagnosis?
No. It was never even like a thought in my head. Taking medicine for a really long time just kind of scares me because we talked about that in our last episode.
Where's it going to end?
Where's it going to end? And it's just masking symptoms and it's not really healing. And I mean, I probably needed Adderall. I was not good at school. I was not.
I bet you were better than I was.
Well, I did get a degree.
Hey, I graduated from college. I did
graduate from high school.
Okay, you beat me. I graduated from college.
But I
graduated from college. Let's get that on the record.
Yeah, okay, he is a college graduate.
Don't look at my grades on my transcript.
It was interesting, but I really think I've grown out of a lot of it.
And you do.
I do.
Humans do. I have too. So people that know me now, the studies are clear on that, and I'm so glad you said that. You often grow out of it, and people that know me now say, I don't think you're ADHD. I don't display many characteristics. Now, I display plenty of characteristics about plenty of things, but not ADHD.
Yeah,
so
that's
much.
how I've seen in myself where I used to just be off the walls. I couldn't do anything for longer than 5 minutes. I was always moving. I couldn't pay attention. I never did homework. I was always late.
Oh, I didn't do homework either.
And now, I mean, I make my bed in the morning.
Can I go back to this?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to picture. So what grade did homework become a struggle? We've never talked about.
Oh, fifth grade. Fifth grade.
I couldn't do homework in fifth grade.
Because I remember.
And how did you deal with it?
Well, I remember I had my very first quiz, and I didn't think you were supposed to study for quizzes because I thought they were pop quizzes.
Right.
But turns out if you know about the quiz, you got to study for it.
Right.
I got like a 20 or something.
Oh, same.
And fifth grade was really when school became a thing. And
yes, it all of a sudden ramped to where it's being just smart. Like, you're very smart. Mm-hmm. That wasn't enough. You might need to look at something.
Right. Well, it really changed for me in college when I was responsible for myself and I had time to do homework, and it was kind of fun to do homework. But
let's go back to fifth grade, Phoebe. So when you get this, do you feel – I'm just trying to compare because I struggled. I was embarrassed. I did that same thing where I wouldn't do homework, and I would think, why didn't I do that? Everybody else showed up. I'm like, I have no idea, but it never dawned on me to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, never.
But did you have excuses where you just kind of like didn't do it?
No.
I would just say,
excuses. I would literally, I remember one time, sorry, Mom, about this, but I remember one time.
Is she listening? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I never wanted you to have to say anything to apologize to your mother. That's a checkbox number 1. What else do you have in that repertoire? Go ahead with this one.
Well, I just remember one time in elementary school, this might have been 3rd grade, I was supposed to do like a multiplication thing, and I realized I didn't do it, and it was the morning it was due, and I ran into the bathroom. And I looked in my backpack, and the only thing I could write with was my mom's lip liner. And I did my multiplication tables with my mom's lip liner in the bathroom. I'm always been a procrastinator, which sometimes rocks. Like, I get it done.
Yeah.
Now I really do get it done, but I used to not ever get it done.
Look, I'm so glad to hear that, just to know you're human. So let's be clear. At a young age, I don't even have to be a professional. You probably displayed some symptoms of ADHD.
Definitely.
but you didn't take medication. You did not go and get diagnosed, which is what we're here to celebrate. That's the whole point. Because, Phoebe, you are today, at the age of 22, creative, a lot of personality, empathetic towards other people. You're very caring. You can feel emotions and
you can keep it going.
Yeah. Well, I have a few. I told you blew the whole 4 to 4:30 thing. And if you were on a strong stimulant, all of those would be muted or evaporated.
And I think something for me was if I had been labeled ADHD at a young age, I think I would have made a lot of excuses. Oh, well, I'm ADHD, I can't do that. Or, I need more time. Or, I need this, I need that. And I just kind of had to learn the hard way.
You had to figure out, this is who I am.
You're going to fail. If you don't get something done, you're going to get an F and you're going to fail it. And I think now, I look back to my younger self and I'm like, okay, I've grown a lot. But it's never been something of, well, I was ADHD when I was younger, so I'm ADHD forever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And definitely, like, there were pretty clear signs I was.
Right.
But it allowed me to experience and to soak up the world I was learning to live in at a young age. And you take more risks and you scrape your knees and you try different things and you get your heart broken and you fail a test. And it's all hyperactivity, but you just are growing up,
And you have to learn how to manage yourself as you are. Look, God creates us as diverse people, and someone who's comfortable in a crowd may also be too loud in a small room. But that's their asset, and that's the thing they have to learn how to manage, right? Somebody who is creative may struggle a little more with math, for example. And one is not better than the other. And so when you look at the characteristics of people with ADHD, frankly, I like to hire them a lot. They can be very creative, very ambitious, very driven. They, again, are very caring people. And I look at myself. That period I was medicated, it made me someone that I am not. I wrote my book and finished it that I had under deadline, but it's a little more robotic. And so I write now kind of in a very distinctive me voice. Maybe it's no good, but it doesn't matter. It's me. It's me. It's how I write. And what I wrote during that period, yes, under medication, I got my book finished, but it had no soul in it. It had no feeling in it.
Wow.
Oh.
And no one wants to read that.
I actually will not even go look at it.
Yeah.
I put words on paper, but it's just no good, And when I get on a stage now and talk or speak vulnerably and take some risks in conversations with people, I'm expressive about how I feel, or those are my greatest assets. And I did have a 1.5 year experience under medication. I was none of that. So I know I love ADHD. I was created as this person. I didn't do my homework often. I struggled in school, and I felt less smart at times. But yet people these days often I get different feedback. I mean, so I'll hear people tell me when I draw out some diagram or plan, they'll try to tell me they think that was smart. I hear a lot more of that as an adult than I hear the opposite. That was smart what you said, or smart what you wrote. Believe me, I say plenty of things that are not. But I heard that none when I was young. Not smart. I heard nice, funny, likes people. Nobody ever said I created anything intelligent. They never said that. And yet I learned, as you said, how to grow and develop. And then guess what? That kid who failed English writes books for a living. And almost every characteristic that I use in my life, professionally and even personally, I think that people they're all tainted with what would be ADHD type qualities.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're my best qualities. I just kind of learned how to better manage them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that without those formative years, learning how to manage the world and messing up and failing, you wouldn't be able to manage it. You know, if you were on medicine.
Oh, I had to fail so much.
You have to fail a lot to figure out how to stand and how to read rooms and how to match energy levels and all of that. And you just have to learn through messing up. And
we talked on an episode when we were discussing you and your life transition at 22 about the power of the word no. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you, for the ADHD personality, where all the power lies, no. Mm-hmm. Because what happens with a lot of people with ADHD is they get themselves over a barrel. They can overcommit and get overextended. And then here's the classic ADHD symptom to that person. They're overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. I don't get overwhelmed at all anymore. I haven't been overwhelmed in so long because I say no. And I mean, just last week, somebody approached me about some business thing and it sounded great and it was very lucrative and I could do it. And I said, no, I'll pass. I didn't want to clog my life, you know? And now, you know, I've got a high credit score and I always do my homework, so to speak. If I had some project due for some work I was doing, man, I would have that. They would have it early. I would never be late with that. But all these characteristics are our best. So I want to say to so many parents listening, are you sure you want to medicate your child? I'm being honest. I'm not judging you for doing it. I'm saying you might want to ask yourself. They're making my book into a movie. I've got a literary agent who says one of my next books coming is pretty good. Well, I couldn't do that if I hadn't lived my life and failed as a person with ADHD that frankly learned how to manage it and has probably grown out of it. Mm-hmm. I ask people near me often because I want to know, do I display any symptoms of that now? And I consistently get back from everybody, no, not at all. But when I go look at my younger self, it's funny, we have that in common. Where it really revealed was 5th grade, because that's when it got a little more serious. Mm-hmm. And
it wasn't as cute anymore.
It wasn't as cute anymore, you know?
Did your teachers hate you?
Yes. I told you before on one episode, I heard one call me lazy. Now that still messes with me.
Yeah.
Like I'm not okay from that.
Yeah, I had a lot of hard time with teachers growing up.
I did too, Phoebe.
It
was awful.
Trauma.
It was really bad.
It was bad. And I think I haven't realized I had a really, really bad experience with a teacher in elementary school. And it comes up every time I go home. Her name comes up. And it was just
I'm
one of
so
those.
sorry.
Yeah.
Because actually listen, this is real we're delving into.
Yeah.
That's real.
It is. And it really wasn't so much of me as a student, but me as a person. She did not like. And it was like because of my ADHD, like we couldn't fidget in our desks. We couldn't blurt anything out. And every time we did, we'd get a minute off of recess.
What? And you can fidget a little.
Oh, I have you seen me this whole episode?
Sure,
I'm like, I have
seen you.
This
I was
ring
not going to give that away.
But that's just how I focus.
Sometimes when we're talking, absolutely. And it doesn't bother me because I know that's who you are and I have all my things. You have all these looks you do with your face and your eyes and they're going.
I can't lie.
But
my face tells the truth.
Yeah, once you told me something, it was not a lie at all, but you weren't just saying something. I said, oh, I know you're about to go do that. And you're like, did my face give it away? I was like, yes. But I watch you when we're talking sometimes and your hands are going 90-0.
Yeah.
I mean, you're working your hands, hands. And that's okay. But I'm saying you're talking about this teacher.
Yeah.
And that's who you are, which is the point of this whole episode. And yet she's scoring you.
Like, truly to the extent where I was like, something's wrong with me. As, a little 7-year-old. And it was so sad. It was a private Christian school I was going to, and I was just expected to sit with my hands folded on my desk and wait patiently to be called on. And I was so little, just trying to see the world and love it and
because you're a very world of wonder person.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like nobody wants to tinker with that. I would not have wanted anybody interrupting that young Phoebe because I know who you are now, and I can only imagine as a little girl that is traumatic for me at this age to hear that.
Yeah, it was really sad. Like, it was really sad and really hard. And there were other girls in my class who, you know, they would say something, but they wouldn't get in trouble, and it was just one of those things.
You became that one to her.
Yes,
where
I was.
And she's judging you based on what things that she saw as fidget, lack of attention kind of thing that she took as a personal affront. Well, listen, two things I want to tell you. One, so anybody listening, I had no idea we were going to talk about this. That's one of the more interesting things you've revealed yet, and I'm so sorry you had to deal with it. That's not small. And the other thing I want to say is I was all over that same spot, and I had multiple teachers like that, and I had some. We've talked about before about Miss Trotter, the teacher that saved me. But that judgment is real, and I guess that's why some parents can't take it. And they wheel their child down and go get them a prescription and frame it all up and give the doctor a pitch, and their child goes and does it. And again, I'm not judging any parents, but I'm just saying, knowing you now, I would hate to think that you would be anybody but who you are. And the same with me, because the who I am now are the characteristics that people are wanting me to do more of. What I'm invited to go do in schools, to speak and to work with students and to write books and to do podcasts and to create content, all of these things emanate. They all were seated in that ADHD David. And now as an adult, I'm not. And again, even though you didn't get your times right that day, I mean, I'm only joking. I don't see those qualities in you. You're in progress, I have no doubt, growing out of many of those.
But what makes me sad is so many times parents and teachers and family friends, whoever, expect children to act like grown-ups. But then when you're a grown-up, you have to dig down and bring out your inner child to do work well. And so it's just this reverse where it's like, I mean, you have grandchildren, I have a niece and nephew, and sometimes it's a lot when everyone's in the house and they're running around and they don't stop talking ever, but there's never once you want to take that away from them.
But I'm so glad you said that. One of my grandsons in particular, I love so much, and he is so smart, and he also displays all kind of inattentive, but first of all, let's talk about I'm coming back to that, but you just took me to one of the most important, amazing qualities of ADHD. And it's this. It's just a myth that people with ADHD can't pay attention to something. That's a myth. That's so wrong. The deal is they will not pay attention to what they do not want to and does not interest them. However,
that's for sure.
They are compulsive attention payers. They cannot look away. I have been called a dog with a bone so many times. All the normies, they'll go look away and just do 20 other things. I have things in my life, particularly a lot of the work I do around self-improvement and student well-being. It's like, I am such a dog with a bone about people having a better life. I cannot let it go. I keep telling myself I'll go do something else, and I don't. For years and years I've been on this, and I can't let it go. I'm not inattentive. I'm hyper attentive. And that's one of the key characteristics of people that have ADHD. You're similar. I know. I watch you, and what interests you really, really interests you. And if it doesn't, sure, you can do it.
You'll know.
But you could be done with it, and that'll be fine.
I was about to say that's something I've enjoyed is I know what I like.
Yes.
You know,
same.
I can do a lot of things.
Yes.
I don't want to do
don't
a lot
want
of
to
things.
do it. Yeah.
And so that's
Same.
nice where there's this, it's very clear. Same with friendships.
Yes.
I can be friends with a lot of people and I don't want to be.
Yes.
And so with that.
Because why, if it's just, the world's small and time is tight.
Yeah.
I mean,
And it's fun to see like, okay, well, I wasn't expecting bowling to intrigue and interest me, but that's fun. Or like water, hobbies. I'm going along the lines of hobbies, but like jobs
bowling is
too.
Fun,
and
yeah.
I don't know. I think you're kind of a dog constantly chasing its tail, and then it finds another tail and chases it, and then it finds another, and it's like, this is fun, which is great. But I think with children, it's easy to get annoyed. It's easier if a child is quiet.
Okay, so my grandson, I'm fortunate to have several grandchildren, more than several actually, 5 and going on 6, and you mentioned the holidays, having nieces and nephews there. So my grandchild, one of mine who I get to see all the time, and he's so smart and he's so precious. He's so amazing. He can just be a buzzsaw through the room, and can get being so funny, and can be bouncing from this thing to that. But I wouldn't change any of it. But also, I can watch him at a young age. Why I don't want to mute that, I'll watch him go build a Lego set 6 feet long that somebody 15 couldn't do, that I can't do at this age. And he has such a focus. 6 years old, will do that for days. It's so complex. And then he brings me this humor and this personality. I do not want that muted. And I dare some teacher to make him feel as I was made to feel, and you were made to feel. And look, people are human. I can forgive and move on, but I can't easily forget. And I don't think you can either, since you're still
got fired.
talking.
My parents literally got her
She
fired.
did.
Yeah,
Like,
she was
good
awful.
riddance.
My mom, we talk about it, like I said, every time we
It's
come
still a
home.
conversation point.
Yeah, my parents are like, we did everything we could. And I don't know. I think there's just, you're going to mess up as a parent. You're going to wish you had taken your kid out of school. You're going to wish you had said something. You're going to wish you had done something else. And that's also growing up,
It's so hard for parents, as we've talked about before, to let your child fail. They just have to fail. As bad as it is, and you said your mother's listening, and she's hearing, and she's shuddering back thinking about you there, because that was hard. That was actually hard hearing you say that, because I know it impacted you. We do this content together, and we have a lot of conversations, and I just, as a child who experienced that myself, and I'll be frank, I mean, even though I've done my best work ever in recent years, and I'm so thankful for it, I have some news for you, Phoebe. While you're growing out of it, there will be some level of judgment by some people that you will get on that probably for the rest of your life, because I've experienced it even in recent years. In a university setting where, I created a university center, I created a university institute, I brought ideas, I got resources, I brought strategy. I would experience that where people with PhDs would kind of look down their nose at me and say, well, you don't do strategy. I'm like, really? I don't do strategy? How do you think you have a job here? Like, you're working in this thing that was my strategy that I wrote on paper 5 years ago that we would do. But people will judge us because we have a certain personality. Maybe we're creative. They come to their assumptions that we're not maybe going to present the complex equation solving that we can.
And that all stems from just this idea that there's one way to be, there's one way to live, and there's one type of person. And I think that's same with my teacher. Like, she had one idea of a student and I didn't fit that, and so she didn't like it.
Yes.
And so with that, I mean, it's also easy to turn in on, who do I turn my nose down to? Who do I see and I think that about someone? I think we get so caught up in our little sphere, our bubble of, this is how I do life, and I'm vibrant and I'm creative. Oh, well, there's someone really timid and shy who isn't vibrant, who creates just as much as I do.
Yes.
And so I think ADHD, no ADHD, the bottom line is there's no one way to do it. You can medicate, you can not medicate. You can go to private school, you can go to public school. Like, I think when we get caught up in our But when we are like, well, this works for me, so this works for everyone. Obviously, that's not the case. And so
it's not. But when we talk about young people, like adults will take medication primarily for work related, and again, some people need it. It is overprescribed, but some people literally have they're high on the scale and it helps them function. That drug was created for a reason. Blessings to you. But a lot of people don't need it. It is overprescribed. It is overused. It is over misused. When we talk about young people, they are given it for one reason and one reason only. Grades.
School.
That's it. And yet, wouldn't you rather them mature in school to be who they're to be? Like maybe they're destined to be a creative writer or another form of artist or do like I have friends who thrive in sales. I mean, and they don't just draw commissions. They solve complex problems to achieve those commissions. And they have to be very good at so many elements. It's not just a personality thing. And that's how they earn that money. And a lot of them would have some of these qualities. Do you really want to knock them out of that? And I do get in schools a lot. And a lot of the schools, we're seeing a sea change. They used to be under pressure, say private schools, for example. They used to feel a pressure to show the achievement, to show where everybody's going to college. We're seeing a sea change now. It's just new. It's just underway. But we're seeing a change where a lot of these schools are realizing parents are more willing to pay tuition for the who the child becomes, not what. And that's where I challenge parents. If you're dosing up a high medication of stimulant, and I've been on it, it's bad. It changes your personality. They will make better grades, but they will be different humans. And we're now realizing you're giving them that medication to achieve a what? The grades. It's probably better to focus on the who they are and let them develop as who God created them to be and learn how to manage that personality.
Yeah.
And so I love it. I get in those schools and I say, guys, let me tell you, I'm going to talk to you about a bad experience I had with medication. And I let them know I'm not creating any stigma. If you're on it, doctor gave it to you for good reason, go for it. But I tell them my story because I misused it. It messed up my life. It wrecked my life. And when I got off of it the past 14 years, I just started focusing more on how do I better manage myself. So you think of a vegetable plant in a garden. It's got all these weeds around it. You could keep fertilizing and fertilizing and fertilizing it for it to grow. But what's happening is those weeds are probably growing faster than the vegetable plant. What you really can do without any fertilizer is just weed. You got to get the weeds out. You got to get the weeds out. And people with ADHD, you will flourish when you spend more time on getting the weeds out. Medication is this crazy fertilizer. That thing, I mean, there's something powerful happening there, but it's better to really focus on getting the weeds out of your life, and then you've got room to grow.
Yeah, that's a good word.
And that's what I did 14 years ago when I got off Adderall, and then I was on Vyvanse at the time, and I'm like, enough. Time for me to crack into who I am. If I've got any chance at this life in being who I'm supposed to be, in doing the work I'm supposed to do, I have to get off this medication. I have to tap into myself. All these assets that made people drawn to me. And so it's interesting, as I've told you, in the past 14 years, Phoebe, most of my successful work has been involved in creating strategy and executing strategy. So two things. It took some knowledge to be able to do that, and it took focus to be able to do those. So ironically, and then I'm creative and write. So ironically, I'm everything they thought I wasn't when I was young. I'm everything they thought I wasn't when I was young and more. And, I tell everybody today, and I can still get a little sensitive when I see people's judgment coming at me today. Like I got from some people, some PhDs at a university once, trying to put me in a box. And it's like, you're this. I was like, I'm not. And I will fight out of that box and fight out of that box and fight out of that box to prove to people. And I realize I don't have anything to prove, but most of us who were ever just ashamed by a teacher, we still got some fight in us to prove something. I promise you.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So I love ADHD. That's the story. And I'm so thankful you shared that about what you experienced. And I think you are a testament. You're 22 years old and you grew up and came to college and everything in the Adderall generation, as you said. The number of people on it in your peer groups is so exceptionally high. The number of people misusing it in your peer groups, so exceptionally high. But you're a testament of why not? And here we are. I don't know if I was or not. You said you never got tested, but maybe you were if you weren't doing your homework in 5th grade. But I'm thankful you were never tested, because you were allowed to become who you're meant to be, Yeah. Check us out, alittlecrazy.com. That's where you can sign up for our newsletter, learn more about this topic and more. Tell others about this podcast. It's A Little Crazy. She is Phoebe Goodwin, the Phoebe Goodwin. I'm David Magee, and we'll be back next week.